I think it's long overdue. It's the best thing that can happen to us as a country. Well, I think we have to make a choice of what we want. Is it that we want good government or we want to live in poverty? If certainly we want to live in wealth and have a prosperous nation where things work, then of course we must have to have money to build those infrastructure. Nigeria makes almost 70% of its revenue from crude oil. And just imagine a situation where you swap your crude oil and use the total proceeds to buy refined petrol, and then you still have to add some money to pay the difference. So which means you don't generate revenue. Everybody is crying that government is borrowing money, and government is borrowing money. They are borrowing for our children. But the reason is because there's no revenue that is coming in, because nobody wants to buy fuel at the right price. So as long as you keep that subsidy, you will continue to multiply poverty. But if you want to create, well, take that out and then let people start to pay the right price. A lot of people want to do business around fuel. They will create industry that will employ people and will produce wealth for the economy. It's as simple as that. It's just a little arithmetic. Well, it can create poverty in the long run. In the short run, it may, but in the longer run, it will really be the avenue to build wealth. Because what you are looking at here is the fact that you are free money from social use to investment opportunity that we translate into further development. Just imagine that Nigeria has money to do constant construction of road alone, build hospitals alone. Imagine the number of people that will be engaged in these enterprises and the number of wealth that it will generate. So let people not be looking at the short-term pain. They should be looking at the long-run opportunity that it will afford the people. I think that's my perspective.
Well, for removing the subsidy, it's not a problem. It hasn't been a problem. Well, it is right if it is done rightly, actually, because right from how many years back we've been hearing about subsidy removal, subsidy removal, subsidy removal. I mean, if I have my statistics right, in 1 year, if this subsidy remains this way, if they take off the subsidy in 1 year, we are looking at an extra 6 trillion naira saved from subsidy. Now, imagine if that money is actually used, even if you decide to use that money, half of it, and invest in power, Nigeria will have a stable power supply. Do you understand? Now, or you say you take half of that money and invest in education, we won't be hearing all these unnecessary strikes coming up at every interval. But the problem with removal of subsidy now is that they've removed it and nobody will account for it. I mean, what's the point? Why suffer us if you can't account for it? So if you know you will not use it well, leave the subsidy, so that we'll be managing we'll be seeing that as the only gain we are gaining from this government.
It depends on the benefits that come with removing subsidy. So if life becomes easier as a result of removing the subsidy, then it could be a good move. But if life remains basically the same, even after removing subsidy, then there's no point. Because if we are paying subsidy for not just Nigeria, we are paying subsidy for Benin Republic, we are paying for Niger. Why should we be paying for the fuel of Niger? But I understand that it's also going to make life a little harder for Nigerians. But if in the long run it's going to make life easier, if in the long run truly it makes Nigerians' lives easier, then it will be worth it. If not, it might be a bad decision. Thank you.
Nothing was put in place to cushion the effect of the subsidy itself. You get? The masses are suffering so much. You see a lot of people trekking, and there's the government has already thrown us into a lot of troubles and hardship. Then adding this one now, I think is a double tragedy. It's a double tragedy. There should be something in place before the subsidy would be removed. Without that, if something to cushion the effect of the suffering of the masses, and that was not done.
It's the right move. At least it's a round peg in a round hole. It is long overdue. It's long overdue. Because when you look at the whole thing, it has been an issue. We have been dragging here and there from time to time. But, first and foremost, if there is anyone seeing it to be a wrong thing now, probably our National Orientation Agency, they are not doing enough. They should have let people know what is at stake. Now, how do we have a country whereby we subsidize fuel for other countries to use? So in a situation whereby, I will tell you, I'm bringing in 15 million liters of petrol, government will pay subsidy on it. At the end of the day, what I actually bring in real quantity is around 10 million liters. Out of that 10 million liters, I will still take some out of the country to sell to other countries. So the government is incurring debt on subsidy from year to year. If you look at our budget, you will discover we are spending more than enough on subsidy than any other thing. Look at our education sector, look at health. So, in a sense, buy fuel by ourselves. Let people import, sell at the rate you can sell. They've removed subsidy on diesel. And people who need use of diesel, they are still using it. They remove on kerosene. So nobody is subsidizing gas. So, look at that thing. So let people pay for what they use. Instead of government will come with this excuse today, this is a amount we spend on, where this money is entering at the pocket of few set of people. So the right is a right move, and it's the right time to do it. In the first place, I don't see any reason why NLC will say they want to go on protest or anything. I am telling you. So if we say we want to go on protest, let look at it from this angle. There are times in history, in the history of this country, whereby even without issue of this subsidy of a thing, we buy petrol as high as 400 naira in black market and the rest of it. But for some years now, fuel is readily available only when they want to create a kind of artificial scarcity. Now, if subsidy of a thing can go, then the only thing I expect NLC to do is not issue of strike. We've tried strikes on several occasions. This because it doesn't work. How many months? I used to use how many months at home? Does it yield the result they want? At the end of the day, they have to go back to school. So the strike is not everything. Is not about strike. Everything we want to protest of a thing. It's the issue of you sitting down on round table. Let's discuss how do we go about these things. Okay, if NLC will fight on their own, say because we want to get this thing increase of it because of the fuel subsidy, we want to go on strike. If they go on strike, at the end of the day, they will still resume. Okay, they want the fuel subsidy to come back. That is not the way to go. So why are we going to continue wasting our money yearly on something that is not adding any value to the country?
Oh, based with what has been going on in the economy so far, I don't see it as a wrong move. But I believe that at least some certain things should have been put in place before it's being taken out totally. Instead of just taking it out and all those things not being put in place, because you also need to look at how it's going to affect the masses also. Looking at the economy, inflation we've been on double-digit inflation for a while. So inflation has not reduced in any way. Market prices are still going on the rise. And adding this to the fuel subsidy kind of makes everything a lot.
Necessary evil, but he didn't do it well. First week in office, or first day after the inauguration speech, he mentioned it, so it was too soon. But definitely it will help the country in the long run, but he could have definitely done it better. So there are different ways he could have done that, I believe. Either he could try to subsidize transportation. Minimum wage is something you're looking at.
Well, it's the right move. It is the right move. Well, I think since we do not even know the actual quantity of fuel that we need in this nation, and we just keep paying for fuel subsidy. So I think taking it out now, it will either make us to know the exact quantity that we are using or not. And I think the over-bloated figures we've been hearing and reaching some few persons who are just milking this nation illegally. So I feel it's the right choice. Though it may be hard now, but I feel it's the right choice.
It's the right move because this will help the government a lot. We know quite all right that government is owing, Nigeria is owing, and we need to pay our debt to be free from debt. So therefore, we need to generate revenue so that we can be free from debt. So the reason why I said it's not the right move is that what needs to be put in place has not been put in place. There are a lot of infrastructures that need to be done, and as well There are a lot of things government needs to put in place before they do that. And even though they want to remove this subsidy, the price is high. At least they can reduce it, let's say something like 250 or 200. It's still something, not just to increase it to the top level whereby there's hardship and all sorts of things in the country. So that's why I said it's not the right move.
I would say it's the right move for now. It's terrible on everyone because this afternoon it's terrible because this afternoon I had to buy almost 25k or so into a car that would normally be like 10k, you know. So it's bad for now, but I know in long run, I believe, you know, he did the right thing. He's doing the right thing because you look at how much they are going to save and pour into other things. Many people don't really believe in Nigeria. Personally, I believe in Nigeria, and I think Nigeria is going to work. So
the fuel subsidy is the right move for the government, but it's not favoring the masses. That's one. It's a wrong move for the masses, but it's right for the government. It's helping their own ways because petroleum was legally imported from Nigeria, so it's kind of helping it out. I'm not an economist, but it's helping it out.
See, but I pray the word that God provides for David when he judged a dead and alive, God of Isaac and Abraham, he will give it to Tinubu to solve this country, because now what Nigeria is now, nobody can say it's only God, but that wisdom God give to David, you know, say to judge life when somebody is not there and dead. There is a battle there, but at the end people see it clearly, say, this one is a king. That is a wisdom. I pray may God Almighty give it to Tinubu for him to succeed in Jesus' name.